I'm Ed Beer Jr., and I'm an artist for Sorcery Contested Realm. Well, it was kind of an amazing thing. We got an email out of the blue from Erik Olofsson, and it said, I'm producing this card game. It's 100% hand painted, and we'd love to have you. I was a fan of your work when you did back in the old days of MTG, your Elder Dragons and stuff, and I'd love to have you on the project. And I was like, am I really catching this? Is this guy saying that he has produced an 100% hand-painted only project? And I went, okay, I've been out of the gaming illustration industry since 2005, and I'm thinking, I got to find out what this is and see the legitimacy. So we worked out a phone call. And so Erik and I talked, and he said, Ed, do you have something in the realm of dragons that you haven't published or you haven't done anything with that you've always liked to do? And I said, well, actually, I do. I have something I wrote back in 2005. It's kind of a world-building project, and I said it's about the Dragonlord, and he is kind of a creator of all things when it comes to dragons, creatures, mythology, all that stuff. And I got talking with him about my storyline. And of course, my storyline is based on how the Dragonlord creates using all of the elements, including opening up dimensions and working in multiverses and bringing the souls of specific elemental beings into the corporeal physical bodies. And he was just like, well, our game bases itself on elements and there's a sorcerer involved. And I went, well, this is a great opportunity then. So that's how it all started. And, I went, oh my God, this is a perfect synergy. All right, so Kairos, the Archivist. When the Dragonlord was created, basically all of these aspects of things, elements and so forth, got together and created or manifested a physical being. When he became into existence, he wanted something, not only as a companion, but also to archive and document everything that was being produced. This is my storyline in my world. And so, in effect, of course, being of reptilian nature, is like, well, this would be the perfect timekeeper as well as an archivist that keeps the records of all the different creations, because not even any god is perfect, And so there were many experimental attempts at creating things. And throughout the library that he keeps, you have everything from specimens, and they're all in the jars. And the biggest thing about it is he's not just the timekeeper. He's not just an aspect of time, but he also is a communicator with the Dragonlord and documents everything that's going on. But at the same time, he's keeping records. And in order to do that, because in the world of the Dragonlord, the time frame is a slight bit different. There's 4 hours less. It's not a 24-hour day. It's a 20-hour day, which is represented in the background of the clock here. And I had to keep everything very scientific. And I thought, okay, this is science. This is alchemy. This is working in astrology. There's astronomy. And I want to make sure that I represent that in every little thing. So there's about 88 hidden, or not so hidden, but objects and or symbols, and they are done in Old Celtic Norse. There's Celtic and then there's Old Norse. So I actually used the symbols and the language. I referenced those languages and created the symbols to reference all of the different things that the Dragonlord would use in his creative process. So the Archivist not only keeps track of time, and you see in this hourglass here, there's an eye. Well, that eye is like his familiar. So this eye actually is, for right now, it's daytime. So this is the day eye. And then later on, it switches out to the nighttime. So he has two familiars that are constantly communicating with him, talking to him a little bit about things going by. And he's very lovingly, as far as when he contemplates and he speaks to these familiars of his, he's connected, but in a very, very relaxed way. I didn't want to come across with this character as being aggressive or omnipotent and dominant. He's very much an intellectual being. And so it is really a manifestation of that. But he is so old, and at this point, it's millions of years into the Dragonlord's existence. His physical corporeal body is starting to disintegrate. So it's being replaced by rudimentary mechanics, more kind of like a little steampunk going on in there. But the brass and the mechanics is what you add. And eventually, he'll just become fully mechanical until that point in time where he returns back to the aspect of time and is no longer a tangible being. So that was my storyline behind it. And, again, it worked out so well for the sorcery purposes, especially in the Dragonlord time frame. But yeah, there's loads of hidden objects through here. I've got a little guy up here. I call him the book troll. He's stealing a bedtime storybook. So behind the walls, there are little troll-like reptilian characters who are constantly stealing things and driving him crazy. So there's always some havoc going on. And you have some of his librarian assistants. So at this point, this is prior to Earth. This is prior to the time in which Dragonlord moved into Earth. So it's very ancient. Yeah, so throughout these ambers all around, there are all of these kind of like trilobites and things from the very beginning creative process from the Dragonlord. So that's the stuff that people are going to find. There's like so many hidden objects and Easter eggs in every single painting I did throughout this whole thing. So when they get a chance to see the large card version, that's where they're going to start to go, oh my God, I had no idea, because the text box covers a lot of that stuff. Like this little guy here, he's peeking and he's messing around with the magnifying glasses. It's just, there's so much fun stuff I got to do in this that I haven't had that creative freedom ever to do in a published product. That was what was such the joy of being able to work with Sorcery, for me. So it's just, I'm good. I can just retire now. Behind Kairos, this is actually Erik's favorite piece. This is the dragon egg, Aurum, because it is a golden dragon egg. And so what we have here is the surroundings of the mother dragons all waiting on this very special birth. Now this is deep within the Dragonlord's lair. This is the underground chambers of where the Dragonlord creates these. So what he basically does is he physically forms the corporeal beings, but they're lifeless. And what you see here, this energy and this lightning, that's coming from way up above. And if you look at the Dragonlord's lair piece that I was already revealed, at the top is a crystal egg. That's a channeling crystal that all of these organ pipes, these are the lower organ pipes, the deep bass, and then the organ pipes run all the way up and through and outside the castle. So thinking science and thinking, how do you open rifts in time? Look what the CERN's doing, right? It's all about frequencies. And so when the Dragonlord himself performs on that organ, it creates a certain frequency that opens a channel in a rift. And that rift brings in a specific soul or energy life force that is aligned with whatever element it is, in this case, the metallics and the gold. And there is another character that is helping in that process, which I won't talk about here. But yes, there's everything was, and of course Erik's like, oh, this is going to be good for this. I can use this for this. But this was his request. He wanted an egg. He wanted a dragon egg in a birthing chamber kind of thing. And so that's what we have. I got to tell you, I have never had such an easy time with art directing ever in my life. For Erik He's extremely skilled when it comes to visual. He knows exactly what he needs, what he wants. He's able to articulate it point blank. He also can see, okay, this is where we're going. I see where you're going with this. And to complement that, he's like what I did with art directing. When you're an artist, you know that you have to get inside the artist's head. You have to see it from their perspective if you're going to direct them at all. But I found with him and I, we would just chat about this next piece. Okay, what are we thinking it's going to be all about? I'd throw my storyline on it, because this is really an adaptation of my story into Sorcery. But it was like, I thought for sure there'd be hiccups in that. I thought for sure we'd have some, oh, this isn't going to work. This is going to work. But the pieces that he commissioned me to do, they were so in line with my storyline. There was the slightest tweaks that needed to be done. And honestly, they were things I would have done anyways. So it was awesome. I mean, I'm not just saying this because I've had so many art directors in my lifetime, in my, almost 47 years. And it might have just been the synergy of how my storyline worked with his product. But even on the individual card basis, when we were thinking about how would this game play mechanically, have I included attributes? I'd do this piece, whatever piece it was, and I'd have, I have an idea that this might work for this kind of mechanic, and I wouldn't even have to say it. He'd be reading into it by looking at the piece. He says, oh, this will be great for this, and I'd be like, yeah, that'd be cool. And so the card design, everything, every step of the way, it worked out great. And also he's fantastic at his digital manipulation, to make things fit and to make things work. Because not every canvas or piece that we do is 100% perfect for the proportions, and there are some things he needs to focus in on and pull back on, because you're never going to see all of this in a card unless it's the all art card, right? So I just found it to be an easy process when it came to that. Yeah. Now, this is what blew my mind. So being one of the original artists for Magic, the first 40 that was hired. Going through all those years. Back in '93, pretty much all of the artwork had to be done hand-painted, because that was the technology we had. That was the mediums we used. Digital was just in the very infant stage. Adobe Photoshop, I think 4 by 1996, 97. So very early on. And certainly long before CS1 came out and whatnot. So I was an art director for several other game companies, Z-Man Games, Companion Games, all these, through the early 90s of the card gaming industry. And I had to hire so many of these artists. And I noticed and I saw the trends changing more and more digital, whether until it finally became Painter Program. And by 2003 and 4 and 5, 80% of most games were digital. So when I'm thinking of the Sorcery environment and the people that are involved in it, I'm thinking, we've had over 20 years of strictly digital. How many real original art collectors, especially young people in generations 18 to 35, would even be exposed ever to tangible original art, handcrafted, hand-painted with tangible mediums? And I was blown away at the community for Sorcery that the second there was an announcement for that first reveal of the Dragonlord's lair, which is the castle where the Dragonlord creates his creatures and stuff, it was overwhelming. I have never, in the 33 years that I've been in the gaming industry, had such a response to original art. The focus from the collectors and players, because their synergy is almost as one, it's a 50-50. I hear from just as many collectors just of the game for the mechanics and its great playability as I do for the original art. And Magic, it was only that way in the very early years, for like the first 3 years. By 1998, everything was focused on play, mechanics. The art pretty much was secondary. It was all about tournament. So I can honestly say that it has been at least 20 years since I experienced collectors and gamers that were coming up to me and that actually were enthusiastically collecting original art. It's just been, I had my group, my stable, but it is nothing like what I have seen. It's almost like a resurgence of all things tangible. And it's funny that it's coming at a time where AI is, dominating so many markets and taking away, human relevance and jobs and so forth. And at that same time, we have, Sorcery, 100% hand painted, and is being extremely successful and really, calling to question every other game industry, the standard of digital work. So I'm blown away by it. I didn't think I'd live. I thought I'd be dead in living in the past. Just say, you know what, my time was when it was 2005. I'm out. The rest of the world went digital. The old guy that's hand painting. I have my collectors, but I'm never going to be back in the game industry. So this was just kind of like an unknown bucket list for me to be able to do something at this stage in my life. Yeah. There's a huge player base that is interested in the original art and loves it because they know it's done the hard way. No shortcuts. Old school, tangible work, sketch process through the fully painted, whatever medium it is, watercolor, oils, colored pencil, whatever. But they know that it's done with the human connection 100%. And we're not trying to streamline this for branding, or we're streamlining for, this kind of homogenized look, which is what we had with so many other game companies, which is why a lot of the kids would be like, yeah, I play the game because it's good play, but the art is kind of all looks the same. Here we have these diversity of styles. Look at any of the artists that are participating in this game. It's all over the place. One of the artists that I'll shout out to is Gadu. I think it's Gadu. Is that how you pronounce it? I mean, he's bringing his ethnicity and the history and the look and feel of his heritage into that work. I saw that. Obviously, some classic artists and friends of mine, Melissa Benson, she brings her colored pencil. She's back there, actually, on the wall. So you've got this wide spectrum. And Erik has been able to do this amazing thing. He's been able to pull from young artists who are now working in the tangible field. And I see this now. I see this all the time when I'm at my shows and my Renaissance fairs. So many of the interest now from the young people, when they come into our studios and galleries, they'll go, oh, this is so vintage. This is great. How does this artist achieve grasping that old school look? And of course, I'm sitting in the background going, because I was one of the ones that created it. So it's an amazing resurgence. What's old is new. Oh man, this is incredible. First off, this is like a dream come true. This is like a bucket list thing. Think about it. I'm having an adaptation of a storyline I wrote years ago being presented to the world. I'm going to have about a dozen pieces that the world's going to get to see. And they are the fact that they've worked so well with this product, with this game, with Sorcery. And now there's so many different things. This is the stuff I did in this game I've never done in any other game ever. So you're going to see such a wide dynamic of characters and creatures. It isn't just dragons. It incorporates many, many other different things. So I want the folks out there to know that when they get this, they're going to be quite surprised at the versatility of what's going to be in it. And I just know it's going to be an excellent attribute as a mini set added to the rest of it. And I think that's what people are going to be really excited about.